What's going on, guys? This episode is sponsored by us here at Elevate Lifestyle Lab. We have fully launched our full line of vitamins and supplements. If you're looking for that little extra energy boost before a workout, looking to put on an extra few pounds of lean muscle, or even boost that immune system, we have everything you're looking for, guys. We have immune boosters, we have daily multivitamins, we have whey protein, we got pre-workout, post-workout, we got collagen repair. So if you're looking for anything in that category, guys, check us out at Elevate Lifestyle Lab. We're offering you guys a 10% discount code for listening to our new podcast episode here of Getting Off the Carousel of Life. So on the checkout screen, under the coupon code, guys, enter GOCL, standing for Getting Off the Carousel of Life. Again, the coupon code is GOCL. That's going to give you 10% site-wide, guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time. All right, what is going on, guys? We are back with episode 3 of Getting Off the Carousel of Life podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Very good. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming back in. We have another good episode for you guys today. We are going to jump straight into it. If you're just tuning in with us, please go back and start on episode 1. We're going to try and keep these in somewhat of kind of a chronological order. It's a big word.
Especially this early in the morning.
Yeah. To try and lay it out for, give you guys some tips on how we kind of deal with some of these topics. We're no experts by any means, but we like to share our experiences, and hopefully by doing that, we can help some other people that might be going through the same situation. So today's topic is called self-awareness. We're going to say / daily inventory, and I'll kind of give my 2 cents about it, kind of how I discovered the whole concept behind being self-aware. I mean, obviously, in the general idea of being self-aware, like, of course, when you're not feeling good, when you're feeling happy. Those are like the basics. But when you kind of dive into adult life and kind of like streamlining everything to live like an elevated lifestyle, like I would like to refer to it, it becomes a little more in detail and in depth as far as like what you want to keep track of. So for me, where I discovered, I would say, more daily inventory, which led into being self-aware about a lot of these things, was when I checked myself into rehab about 10 and a half years ago. And that's kind of about the whole program around the 12-step is, a part of it is taking daily inventory of basically like think about what you're thinking about, right? Like your best thinking got you to that situation, so my best thinking checked me into rehab. So, I had to start thinking about what I was thinking about to get me into the situations that I was in. And then that gets back to a lot of, asking yourself the basic questions like, am I happy today? How's my self-talk? Am I talking bad about myself? Am I acting in fear? Am I acting in faith? Am I, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I paying attention? Am I checking in with other people? Am I helping other people? Like, these are all questions that I never really cared to ask in my day-to-day life. Before that, it was college, and it was party, and it was, party time. So those things kind of fell at the wagon. So that was my first introduction into kind of checking in with being aware of how I was mentally, spiritually, physically, and then that's kind of where it started to, it's a daily, it's constantly growing on you as far as how in depth you want to go into these topics, because you start learning about spirituality and meditation and how you feel mentally, and I think that's the biggest thing. Kind of, for me, is like obviously being aware and self-aware and taking inventory on how you feel physically is very important. And I think that, once you start thinking about that, it can kind of, it becomes kind of natural. And it's like, okay, I feel extra heavy today. It's probably from the bag of Doritos I ate yesterday. It's like, it's too much ice cream. Like, you can start to relate to that. But I think it's really important on the mental side of stuff. Because it's like, like the other episodes that we had, our last one was changing the input. It's like kind of being aware of that, like being aware of like who you're interacting with, and the importance that, like, if you have a family or if you have kids or if you're single, it's like, are you putting enough time for your wife? You have to be aware of, are you in the moment with your kids? Are you making enough time for them at the end of the day? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? So I think all that's, really important to excel in your life, and especially in the learning aspect of it. So, my discovery was about 10 years ago for doing that, and how I kind of, I just want to give a few suggestions on maybe, what to do with, how you can implement that on kind of like a day-to-day. And you can kind of just do like a few short checklists when you wake up. It's kind of like, how are you feeling that morning? Like, sometimes you like maybe roll out of bed and it's like you feel stressed out, you feel like you have anxiety, you feel like you didn't sleep good, you feel like, bloated or extra heavy. It's kind of like you got to take those steps back. Like, what did I watch before bed? Did I watch like this crazy murder documentary that my wife made me watch, and now I'm like had bad dreams because I thought I was getting murdered by Freddy Krueger, or whatever it is. It's like that's a simple aspect of it, but just on a day-to-day thing is kind of just asking, check in with yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, and see if everything's kind of running smoothly. If not, kind of backstep the last 24, 48 hours and start trying to dial in like what maybe made you feel that way. Did you eat something wrong? Did you have a bad conversation with somebody that you shouldn't have? You made contact with a parent or a relative that you haven't spoke to in months, and like kind of trace that back, because then when you can figure out what made you feel that way, it's going to be easier to either deal with or avoid or work through the next time. So those are a few tips that I could kind of offer for that topic, and I will leave it to you guys.
I do have a question for you, though. So did you talked about, prior to going through the 12-step program, that, before that you really weren't aware. Did you have the tools before then? Or were you taught when you went through the 12-step program how to think about?
It made me aware to, I think that's where it kind of, that's what they preach to you a lot, is like your best thinking landed you here. And like leading up to that, when you're all in that rut of like, as a teenager or young 20s, you feel like you know it all. So it's like, I know it all. I know what I'm doing. I'm doing the best I can. And like, nobody can tell me shit. And then when I realized, when my best thinking landed me into rehab, that's when it opened my mind to like start figuring out like, when I was using and I was partying like that, I would wake up and I would be depressed, or I'd be in my head. I'm like, life isn't the way I want it to be. And like blaming this person and blaming that person instead of taking the responsibility myself. So I didn't have the tools before. I mean, I was aware of like, I felt like shit, I felt happy, but I'd never traced it back, you know what I mean? So that kind of started the process of me like, and that's why I repeat that, thinking about what you're thinking about, because then it starts to make you think like, why am I thinking like that? Like, that's weird. And then I can't trace it back from there.
That's kind of where I was going to go with that, is like when I started going down my personal development journey, I knew that like I had the simple words to talk about how I was feeling, and I was either unhappy with my life or life was okay. But until I understood how to express that, like it was almost like, again, I got off the carousel because I realized I was on the carousel. Then I got off the carousel. But until somebody like educated me on how to think about what I was thinking about and giving me those words, it's like I have young kids, and I tell them sometimes use your big girl words because I have 2 daughters. Like it's that maturity where you're starting to expand your vocabulary. So you're trying to like pull yourself out of that situation to analyze it. And I'll be honest with you, even right this second, like I'm struggling with that now. Just being self-aware and taking that daily inventory and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm literally going through right now.
Yeah, I think it never goes away. You constantly have to be aware of the awareness. Yeah.
Well, and there's so many different topics. Like, I don't know if you guys know the 4 levels of consciousness.
No, actually.
So, initially we're unconsciously incompetent. So we don't know what we don't know until all of a sudden it's brought to us. We're like, okay, now you're consciously incompetent. So now you're aware that, crap, I have no words to be able to describe it. I have no tools to be able to get out of it. So you have to go through that stage, and we'll do that through our entire life. Okay, so I don't care if it's mechanics, engineering, a new marketing, for Elevated. All of a sudden you're going to get to learn, you're like, wow, I thought I knew about this, and now I'm realizing that I'm consciously incompetent. And then you have to go through the next levels, which you become consciously competent, and then you become unconsciously competent, where it flows.
I love that.
You're a master.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question, because self-awareness, I mean, one, you've got to put time in. You've got to get an idea of how your feelings. You got to be able to put words to it. So it's important. People need to spend the time doing it.
Yeah, for sure. When did you kind of discover the whole process of actually taking action like that, or even being aware of being aware?
Well, I mean, I was a psychology major, and the reason I got into that is because I always felt like I had a pretty good idea of my emotions and why I was feeling that way. But then just got to the tools of, okay, I can help other people, but it's so easy for us to give other people financial advice, relationship advice, but then having the discipline of then us doing it ourselves. So that was more of my journey. But as far as self-awareness, I mean, it's one of those things where it's a constant that you're always changing, and just being mindful of, hey, this is happening. Why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? And just working from it.
Yeah, and I'm 35 years old now, and I still it's a huge struggle, as is for everyone. But I think that really is rooted in like my childhood, because we didn't really talk about our feelings a lot.
Yeah.
Like we just stuffed them down, and that's kind of a guy thing, but it was also like my family thing. So I had it from both angles, and it just that's like one of my biggest struggles is just trying to, especially with my wife, like talking about my feelings and talking that through, because I'm like I'm a people pleaser. I'm a salesman. I'm kind of on all day.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to do is put on that mask when I come home and like, let's talk about our feelings and stuff like that. So that's something that I struggle with. And that's why I found myself, relying on alcohol sometimes for relieving stress, number one, but also if I have a couple drinks, like it just kind of melts things away and I feel normal. And I hate that I do that, and it's something that I'm working through now. But like that gives me the ability. So after I have a few drinks, I can connect with my wife. I can sit there and talk about my feelings, and I can process them, because it almost like brings me down a level. And
be
just
able to
kind
open
of
up.
just kind of
Yeah.
normalizes that, and I want to be able to do that, and it's gotten much better over the years, and it's a daily thing, but I want to be able to have that connection without a substance, basically.
Right.
And it can be anything.
But that's a good example of being self-aware of what's going on, right?
Right.
Most people are just going through and just rocking and rolling and don't give any 2 cents to that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the place you want to be, is being aware of it and
Yeah.
making a conscious decision of trying to do something about it. Do you guys have any rituals or what's your kind of routine? I mean, it doesn't have to be some type of crazy meditation or anything, but you guys do any journaling? Is there like a mental checklist that you feel like, it's like, oh, I haven't had date night this month, or I haven't took the kids out for a fun night. Like, is there like a mental checklist you guys go through of any sorts to where you're like, I'm slipping a little bit, I got to tighten up?
Yeah, I mean, I do anchoring. So if I find that I'm in a state that is not very conducive with the people around me, I'm very go, go, go type of individual. However, when I'm dealing with my wife and communicating with my kids and engaging with them, if I find them in that state, I may walk away and do some type of anchoring where I'm like, okay, let's get out of that state. Let's come back. I was listening to a guy where he said that when he would come home from work, he would take his keys and he would rattle them right before he walked in the door, and that was an anchor for him that, okay, we're leaving work outside. We're now going to become the best dad, the best father, and that was like a signal for him, like a bell of like, okay, we're going to go ahead and change state. So I will do that, where I just know that, hey, I'm not in a place where I need to be to deal with an 8-year-old child. I'm dealing with, I'm in an adult state, which is very, very fast, where she just wants me to get on the floor and play.
Right.
So,
You're not
so
dealing with employees anymore.
I'm not.
Yeah.
So I do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I do some similar things. I've been finding, so my kids are 6 and 7, and they're starting to notice how often I'm on my phone. And they're starting to, like, even last night, my daughter was like busting my chops about being on my phone. I was like, damn it. Which I hate that, because the moment she says something, like, I know, because I don't want her to develop those habits. And I have gotten much better. I've disconnected from certain things on my phone and stuff like that. But I would say that, yeah, I do have those things and those habits that I do. But for me right now, more importantly, is it's actually prepping for that next day. So when I drink, or when I eat like shit the night before, or have a bad night, or stay up too late, I've now let that night affect that next morning. So my goal, I have it on my whiteboard. I don't do it that often right now. We're just kind of in a weird state with my wife. She's a teacher and she just stopped teaching. So, but my goal is to wake up at 5, do journaling, do some stretching and things like that. But it's very clear that if I have a late night or if I drink, I'm basically saying no to those goals that next morning. So it's like when I'm in that state where I'm having those late nights, all I do is set up the day to react. So I'm in reaction mode to that next day. But if I go to bed early, take some magnesium, don't drink, maybe drink some tea, or have an early bedtime, like, I'm saying yes to the next day. And that way I can approach the next day in a proactive mode. And I'm not on guard with things coming at me. I'm prepared to move forward and, block things as they come at me, not take them and, kind of like arrows in a battle or whatever. So.
That's good. Now, do you guys struggle? Because you both said, and I think we're all three the same. It's like we're all three like go 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 all day. And I was listening to, I think, like one of Jim Rohn's speeches, and he refers to like the salesman, how it's like we work so much, we're at the office so much, it's like, oh, I should be at home with the kids. And when you're at home with the kids, you're like, oh, I need to be working.
Yes.
Do you guys struggle with that back and forth a lot of the times?
Well, I'm the older guy here, so no, I've been able to work through that.
Yeah.
So when I'm at work, I'm at work, and when I'm home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've really been able to, over the years, I dealt with that a lot. It's probably been the last 6-7 years, I am present.
Yeah. Do you have a thing like your buddy? He shakes the keys. Do you put your phone down somewhere? Do you like take a big deep breath before you walk in? Is there anything that you do?
My phone is really not in my hand when I'm home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm in a little bit different position
Sure.
than the two of you. But yeah, when I'm home, even like when we're at dinner, like my wife and I have a rule that even if we're both checking if we're just checking the weather, what's going to be happening the next day, we don't do it at the same time. Like we get in that habit where we're just not going to always have those devices when I'm off.
Yeah.
Right.
But once again, I used to be like that.
Yeah.
I realized it was an issue, and I've worked through it. And now, no, when I'm with my family, I'm there.
Yeah. One of the things I don't do is if I'm on a call, like a work call, coming home, I'll either make it clear that I'm going to hang up with that person, and whether it can be a work call or a personal call, like I'm on my parents or something like that. Like I'll make it very clear, like, hey, I'm pulling into my driveway. We're going to get off the phone now because I'm not going to walk into my house on my phone.
Yeah.
So I've made that very clear, and we've started to do no phones even around the dinner table. Like if it rings, like we're eating family dinner, like it doesn't matter. So, and little things like that. I think that life, like we talked about in the first episode, is made up of little changes. So just implementing those little rules and then just following them. Like don't break your own rules. Don't break promise to yourself. Will end up with some massive results.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, guys. Well, I think this was a great episode. Hopefully, you guys got some good nuggets out of here, and hopefully, maybe you can implement some of these practices that we try to do in our own life. If you haven't already, guys, hit that subscribe button, share this with all your friends, and we will see you soon. Thanks, guys.